This is Tech Addicts. This week, our analysis of the Microsoft Surface event. HMD launch an old tablet. There's a good-looking piece of audio kit from Tivoli. The Moto G85 leaks. Could Microsoft be purchasing Steam? Hello and welcome to the Tech Addicts podcast. I would be Gareth and this would be Ted. How
Hello.
are you, Ted?
Hello. I'm okay, thank you. Yep, can't complain. It's pissing down with rain here. Weather report. Pissing down with rain. You'll probably be able to hear it at various points during the show because it was quite heavy about 10 minutes ago. Yes, we have a non-summer day here. Have you got a non-summer day there?
Yes, it hasn't started pissing down here, but I'm sure it will do fairly soon, as soon as I go to leave the house and go out of the house this afternoon. But I do have a little background noise in that my Synology seems to be doing some sort of maintenance this morning, and it's burbling away quite noisily, so if you can hear that, apologies. It started it yesterday morning, and it does it sort of once a month, and it can take a couple of days.
Wow.
To get through all the stuff that's in there, just to make sure that everything is robust and working well. Good maintenance.
Yeah.
Good maintenance.
Good.
Yeah. Well, actually, that kind of leads us into our first bit of feedback, come to think of it, because Ian Barton has written in about a little tool that you can use, say, on a Synology or a server, or just generally in a sort of Linux environment, and that is a thing called Uptime Kuma, which is Ian goes on to explain, worried about your MB or Plex server has stopped working. Uptime Kuma is a monitoring application which lets you set up and watch over your computers and services and sends warnings if it can't access the app or server. Monitoring uptime for HTTP and S, TCP, HTTPS, keyword to HTTPS, JSON query, ping, DNS records, push, server or Steam game server, Docker containers, fancy reactive, and it's got a fast UI for you to integrate with. It's got notifications that send out via Telegram, Discord, Gotify. Gotify? I don't have that one yet.
Never heard of it.
Slack, pushover, email, and 90 other notification services and it can monitor things at a 20-second interval. It supports multiple languages, multiple status pages. It's got a map status page for specific domains. It's got a ping chart, certificate info, a proxy support, and 2FA support.
Blimey.
Thank you, Ian. It is a top recommendation. It's something that I've been thinking about installing myself. However, I don't think I've actually had need to run it yet. I'm very minimal in what I do with my server at the moment. Also, because I'm using a Synology, by comparison to a server, it's somewhat weedy. It's got a very small processor in it by comparison. Still decent processor, I suppose, for a NAS, but it doesn't have GPU backup or support for various different things. So I have to be careful about what I'm running. So I do look at things and kind of really stroke the old beard as to whether or not I need this on my server, and I haven't had any call for it. But yes, I've heard a lot of people recommending Uptime Kuma because it'll tell you when something stops working, or if something's down for whatever reason. Some of the examples they're showing here is that it's checking ports, and it's checking Facebook and Google and Inbox by Gmail, SQL servers, and pinging stuff. You check your own website, but it can also check internal server things that you happen to be running as well. If Plex or MB were to go down, then it can let you know. But I've never had that happen yet, so I haven't had a need for this to be able to push out those notifications to go, warning, Danger, Will Robinson. Things have gone bad. Ted, you've never heard of this?
Not only have I never heard of it, I really don't understand, to be honest, what it's for and what it does. But we always knew that people like you and Ian Barton are really into this stuff, and good for you. And it's great that you want to tinker and nerd and geek out at this kind of level. For the rest of us, it's probably just not needed. But we were talking before the show about the fact that you've been living in the Linux world for the last fortnight, virtually, and absolutely good for you. I just don't feel the urge to want to get stuck in like you do.
Well, we will be coming back to this later in the show for various reasons, but yes, I'm very happily. I had to switch over to Windows this morning in order to use Skype to talk to Ted to record this podcast, which I was kind of begrudgingly going. Oh.
What? So Linux can't run Skype then?
It can, but I don't want to install it yet. There's other things that I'd rather be using. And I have spoken to you off air about them in the past, but I just haven't got around.
Yeah.
I'm not competent enough to rely wholeheartedly on it. So
sure.
At this stage, I'm looking at my computer, for which all the RGB seems to have turned off for some reason. I don't know what that's got to do with.
Bloody Windows.
Yeah, it's got to be. But I have my main SSD that Windows is installed on. That's the main drive in my computer, and I've got Linux Mint installed on another SSD, a lesser one that I was kind of fiddling around with and playing with. And I think I'm about ready to swap those two around, where I'm going to put Windows onto that lesser SSD for when I want to dual boot to Windows, because I think I'm almost there. I've got a wee bit. I'm just worried that as soon as I do this, as soon as I commit, there's going to be some problem. Like they're going to turn around and go, "Yep, Linux Mint, we're going to stop it from today," and then I'll need to go and learn Zorin or Arc or something like that, or some other distro. And I'm just fearful. I'm being cautious rather than running headlong into battle with it.
Understood. Yes.
But in the coming weeks, I imagine that Mint will be my main OS, and I think I'll be an awful lot happier.
Okay.
For very, very obvious reasons. Okay, so moving into the banter section, where we're going to have a wee chin wag about various bits and pieces that we've been thinking about over the last couple of weeks. Ted, we're going to start with you, because you sent me a message just the other night saying that you were interested in the idea of doing YouTube review videos, something that I have, actually kind of stopped doing over the last year, and you wanted to have a chat about how easy it would be to actually set up and start doing that.
Well, the thing is, I was talking to Steve about this, and we got this phone in for review, and I said that these PR companies, what they really want is people putting stuff on YouTube, and that's how they decide who gets prioritised in terms of what they send out to people. I'm absolutely convinced it's all YouTube driven. And I said to him, I don't want my mug on YouTube. I do not want my face being on YouTube doing what these confident YouTubers do. And he said, well, why don't you do the same as a lot of people do? And I mentioned you, which is to do desk down videoing. So you put a bit like Flossie Carter does, for example, you put the camera somewhere around your head, and you presumably put your two arms around the camera, and then it's pointing at your desk, and all you do is fiddle on the desk with whatever it is you're reviewing and talk into a microphone. And that's the kind of setup that I was talking about, setting up, and wondering how you do that and how easy it is to set up and what you do. So that was it. That's the background. Yeah,
well, it is as easy as you just said there. You basically find some way of vertically mounting a camera over a table. I didn't even go that far. I just had a tripod at the side of the table and raised it up and then pointed it down at an angle and sat beside it. If you watch various videos, you'll see where I hit the tripod with my leg and it vibrates. I'd say the hardest thing that I had when it came to actually producing those videos was sound. And there was various different things that I learnt over the way, in that it used to be that I would plug the microphone into the camera and record directly onto the SD card, but that would bring with it some issues where you're putting all your eggs in one basket. Maybe one of the microphones I had a battery in it, and it didn't have a battery indicator to tell you whether or not the battery was dead. And I'd record a bunch of videos thinking that, all the audio's there, but it turns out it's not. And because I'd plugged in the microphone into the camera's microphone socket, the camera had passed over to the microphone as opposed to using the onboard microphone. So I ended up with no sound over the videos. So I'd have to edit them together without the sound and then record something afterwards, which added a whole extra to-do, which was a bit of a pain in the ass. So recording your sound separately, and I know you've got a couple of Zooms knocking around, so you would just have those, and then whenever you bring them into the editor, you drop your audio in as well, trim off, sort of line it up, and then lock it to the video so that whenever you start making cuts, it'll cut out various bits and pieces it'll keep the timeline true between the audio and the video. It's very easy to do, and all the editing software now does that for you.
So what editing software would you recommend?
Well,
for a Windows user.
Obviously, cheap is cheerful, and for editing something for YouTube, you're just basically cutting and splitting and things. Shotcut is free.
Okay.
And dead easy to get, download, install, and understand. There's no shortage of tutorials on YouTube of how to use Shotcut. So it's very, very simple to set up and get proficient at.
So when Steve is doing his the YouTube shorts now he's doing, he just uses a phone. You're talking about using a proper camera and a proper audio setup and blah blah blah, but he just has always used his phone. Is that not possible?
Oh no, it is, absolutely, yes, you can do that. I do find I have used my phone for various videos, but I've always found that you have to go in and manually set the focus. And you've got to remember to do that, otherwise autofocus will kill your video, and people click off as soon as focus is lost.
Yeah.
The one thing I would say, I've done 500 videos, some of which were quite popular, very few of which were quite popular, to be honest, and a lot of them, struggled to get above 200 views because they were kind of niche technology. I actually think that the reason why they weren't terribly popular was because doing the non-facing the camera thing is very impersonal, and people like to be personal with their YouTuber, and I think that the success rate is a lot higher if you appear in the video.
Right.
Not all of them, you don't have to do all of them. There's loads of people who do both, but every now and again, it's best to appear on video. And I've found that some of the ones that I've done that have been more popular than others are whenever I've actually had to do something, like if I'm testing a camera and I do a piece to camera to show how the camera looks.
Right.
That one's always got a bit more in the way of views than if I've just had the phone or whatever it is.
So people are looking for you to turn it into a little TV show.
Kind of, yeah. They like to get to know you and put a face to the voice.
Yeah.
And I've got comments and things saying that they would love to know what I look like because I sound so sexy, and that gives me a bit of a big head. Ooh. But no, the other thing is you'll start to find that tech companies will be dicks to you as well if you are negative about the. Reviewing tech is all well and good, but there is real pressure from the PR company or the tech company to say, give us a good review.
Yeah. I understand that. Yeah.
And I've had takedown requests from various companies because there was a set of headphones that I unboxed once, and they fell apart as I pulled them out of the box. And they wrote to me and said, take the video down. And I said, no, you sent me these to review, and I reviewed them, and they weren't bad headphones. They just were really badly built.
Yeah.
And they'd been maybe around a couple of different reviewers and been badly treated. But, that kind of goes to show that maybe in 6 months' time, these things are going to be falling apart because they're not really well built. And they tried to go the whole YouTube takedown thing to get rid of that video. And the PR company stepped in and said, look, we're not going to work with you anymore unless you take that down. I was like, right, I have a decision to make here. Yeah. And I took it down for a while, then put it back up whenever I thought, no way, I'm bending to what they're telling me to do. And that's one of the reasons why I don't review tech anymore, because I've burnt a lot of bridges with the PR companies and the tech companies that they won't send me things.
Yeah, but telling the truth, yeah.
Yeah.
That's,
the likes of Aukey, Anchor, and UGREEN, I've said negative things about some things that they've done, and they won't send me anything anymore.
Right.
I have a wee pair of in-ear headphones, and I think I was quite negative about them for UGREEN, saying that they were a wee bit overpriced for what they are. And I had all kinds of nasty emails from them saying, or I think it was UGREEN. I can't remember. I've got the headphones. No, I can't remember. Maybe it wasn't UGREEN. I can't quite remember. Don't want to end up in a civil case about defamatory or libel or anything like that, but or slander. But that's something that presents itself quite quickly.
I've always shied away from that and gone for writing my reviews, and I think that they don't get huge audiences. I mean, they're only on my blog, for goodness sake, linked to from my website, so they're not going to get huge views. But it just seems like that's what I like doing, and I do have a kind of select and enthusiastic audience that do that, but I think we need to accept, as I mentioned Steve there, and PSC and PR companies that we're expecting to send us out samples, is that sometimes we are last on the list. I'll give you an example. This week we managed to get a Motorola Edge 40 from Moto's PR company in the UK. And that came out well over a year ago, and they're obviously only letting us have stuff when everyone else is done with it. All the YouTube videos are done. Nobody else is interested anymore. And then, here's Ted and Steve. We'll send it to them now, sort of thing. Because it's sat in a drawer doing nothing. And the unit that they sent me was like over a year out of date for security. It was obvious that it had not been used all that time. Anyway, so I shy away from doing any videos personally for all the reasons you just said, and I don't like my face being on video either, so it just doesn't all work. But I like what you do because you do your Blu-ray things camera down as well. And,
really, no. Actually, I have been thinking about what to do there, and I've got some ideas going forward. I might be back doing stuff if I can be arsed.
Okay. Well, I like what you do anyway. I think it's great, and you might not have a huge audience, but I think that the people that follow you and they like that. There's nothing wrong with having a smaller audience, a smaller enthusiastic audience.
There's a funny thing about some of the tech videos that have been done in the past is that things can suddenly become quite popular well after the time.
Right, yeah.
There was an old tablet I reviewed about 6 or 7 years ago. It was an Alba tablet. It was a really cheap, nasty tablet. I think it was just before Christmas it was released. It felt like one of those kind of cash grabs where, dump a tablet out and get it into the shops for Christmas, and we'll maybe see some, profits there. But it consistently gets comments and views, and it's carried on over the years, and I can't work out why. They're always good comments as well, like this is a great tablet, or people asking for assistance, like I've done this and done that, how can I fix it? So, what, really? on this old piece of crap, because I didn't give it a good review either. I think it was, I can't quite remember the video, what happened in the video, but there was some problem with it. And a friend of mine who was helping me with his site at the time, he went and bought one. And I think he got rid of it a couple of weeks later because it was just garbage. Mm-hmm. But people are still there, and I'm trying to work out, is there some kind of weird religious cult that uses this?
I just looked at the stats on my blog as well, and the strange thing that happens with that is that I'm enthusiastic about my phones, obviously, but the 4 top hits, that I've only got 4... this is all-time stats, right? There's 4 of them that have gone over 1,000 views. One of them is a phone. It's the Sony Xperia 5 Mark IV. But the other 3 are not. The Soundcore Life Q10 headphones, over 1,000 hits. The Unihertz Titan, well, that is a phone, but it's like a passport type phone. That's over 1,000. But the top one, which is 2,000 hits, is the B-Link U57 mini PC, a little box PC. And you think, why that? I would expect people to be going in for the Samsung phones or the Pixel phones or whatever, but no, it's really odd.
Yeah. It's peculiar how things actually pick up. One of the slowest burners I had was the Huawei P30. Looking at the stats now, I did it 5 years ago. It's had 83,000 views. And I remember thinking, wow, I was dead excited about this because it was brand new, got it in, got it reviewed, got it up within 2 weeks of its release date, maybe even a week of its release date, and it did nothing. I was so disappointed. I was even on the point of turning around to Google going, is there something wrong here? But then after about 6 months, it suddenly shot up and rocketed up, and I was, why so long after? And I can only put it down to other people were reviewing the phone when it came out, and it becomes so competitive to try and get your video ahead of someone who's bigger and better on YouTube, like Steve or Captain Two Phones. What's his name again? Mr. Mobile, or Marcus, or MKHD, to see whether or not or TechSplurt. Perfect example. Chris has really nailed YouTube. I remember talking to him about YouTube before he left Recombu, and he was looking to go solo, and I was like, oh, it's a tough world, and he was like, yeah, but I'm going to do it, and he went out and absolutely smashed it.
Right.
And it's down to his real enthusiasm and his drive and that, but I just couldn't work out why this was happening, and it was all the little things that were doing better than a big phone that I was genuinely excited about. Weird. Yeah. So I decided to focus more on the little things, and also the bigger companies weren't sending me devices because I wasn't afraid to say, no, this is crap. Yeah. This doesn't work as well as it should. And they stopped sending me stuff, so I ended up having to just do whatever came along with, various different smaller Chinese companies trying to find something. And I would take my hat off to them that they were trying in such a big competitive world.
Yeah. It all sounds like a lot of hard work, really, to me. And frankly, I can't be bothered. If I was not 61 years old and I was 21 years old and I was looking to make a living out of this, and I would probably approach it differently. But I guess I just don't need to, and I can't be asked. And I'm quite happy writing like I do.
That's the different. That's the other side of the question. Is that you're looking to possibly enter into YouTube to try and make a bit of money, a bit of a side hustle?
No, not really.
But well, it is potential. I'm not going to be behind the fence at all. I still make some money from the videos that are up there,
right?
And I'm quite glad of it whenever it comes in. It's a nice little surprise because I don't expect the money to keep coming in, but every now and again not every now and again, I suppose every month there's a payment that goes in that's gradually decreasing, and that's great. that money has paid for the bandwidth for this podcast, for the bandwidth for my website, to be able to play around with certain things, to upgrade gear for the channel as it goes along. I can't say I've ever made a profit out of YouTube, but you could make a nice little side hustle where it does give you your beer money for the week, just by recording your thoughts. But I think where you want to actually turn it into your sole source of income, that's where you'll start to really hate doing it after a while, and it'll probably take your love out of tech entirely.
Yeah. And you've got to look pretty, and you've got to make sure that you're attractive and female. Although that's not
I don't agree with that anymore.
Not always the case, but I think that I'm well. If we lay aside tech reviewing, just general reviews, I'm more likely to be watching something if there's a female presenter on it. But perhaps that's just
that's
me.
Just because you're a horny old dog. I've been entertaining the Linux world for a wee while now, and I got to say, I don't want to piss off everyone in the Linux world, but pretty people in Linux aren't two things that go. But they're not afraid to appear in front of the video, and I absolutely take my hat off that they're quite happy to sit there and show their mug and talk Linux, because they genuinely want to talk Linux. Yeah. And that's great. That's absolutely brilliant. That's what I love about YouTube. And I would be all over your videos if you were to sit and record and just, there's a certain F word that can be used for anyone who says anything about how anyone looks on YouTube, and they can go and themselves. Yeah. But, it's something that people shouldn't be afraid of. You've got what you've got, and you may as well use it.
Yeah. That's another discussion about psychology and self-esteem and self-image and stuff like that, which we'll keep in PSC Health. Another of our MeWe groups. Anyway, thanks for that. That was really interesting to hear what you had to say about it, and I'll bounce it back with Steve again and see where we go. But I think I'll probably stick with what I'm doing, frankly.
Well, listen to people as well. I think if you're listening to this and you'd like to see Ted do something like that and just record his thoughts without me chittering on, without Steve chittering on, and just Ted on mobile phones, let us know. Are you enthusiastic about the idea? Should we put the pressure on Ted to do this, because it has the potential to? I think it could jump out of the pan, because I think you're well liked with the community. I think people only listen to this to listen to you, as opposed to listen to a gobshite like me.
Well, the first thing that I could review would be my Logitech MX Keys Mechanical. Yeah. On the last show, I said that Amazon were doing a special deal on this and giving me about 5 years to pay for it. And I was really tempted. And so I jumped in and got it. And I absolutely love it. I think it's really, really nice. It's mechanical, obviously. So unlike the MX Keys Ordinary, it makes a noise when you're typing, as you can hear. And that's one thing to consider about it. But the problem I have with it is that, having used chiclet keyboards for such a long time now, for so many years now, I'm just crunching the keys all the time. The amount of times that I hit the caps lock and I realise that I'm typing in capitals, I'm finding that I'm having to look down at the keyboard when I'm typing, whereas previously with the chiclet keys, I wasn't a lot of the time. I guess that's touch typing, that's called, I suppose, isn't it? And I guess my brain will eventually learn. I think that is becoming less. But I remember this week I switched to my Pixel book for a while, and with the chiclet keyboard, and my brain couldn't get back into that as well. So I do. I mean, at 61 years old, as I've mentioned twice now on this show, perhaps my brain's too old to adjust very quickly, but it will come, hopefully. And the other thing I'll say to you is that I don't think the backlighting is as reliable to turn on and off as the non-mechanical version, with the hover over stuff. But it is.
So it means it's truly horrible.
Well, but what I was going to say was that it is smarter than the MX keys at detecting the ambient light. So it knows when it needs to be on and stay on because it's too dark. Whereas I found with the MX keys, it couldn't work out if it was dark enough to stay on or not. So there's two things going on there. There's the hover your hand over the keyboard, and there's the just staying on when it's too dark bit. And I think that one is good at one and one is good at the other. But I really, really like it, and it takes me back. It's quite nostalgic, and I love the clackety-clack of typing on the keyboard.
Yeah, that would be lovely. And it's priced quite nicely as well. I did make a derogatory comment there about the illumination issues, but it's been a pet peeve of mine with the MX keys where, it'll sit and glow and then not glow and glow and not glow when you're not even close to it, or you're sitting in the same room watching a movie or reading a book or something like that, and you see it glowing in the corner. Like, why are you turning on now?
Yeah.
But
well, I think that's to do with ambient light, because if I've just turned my light off now, and if I just don't go anywhere near it, the backlight stays on, and I think that's what should happen. But there's also this second thing, is where you just lightly run your hand over it, it's supposed to come on, and I think that's what's more reliable in the non-mechanical version. Right,
okay. I always found it was crumbs as well. If you've got a biscuit crumb stuck between the Z and the X button, then that can set it off as well.
Okay.
What about the build quality? Do you think it's really strong? Would it survive, a hammering if you were to, you log in your bank account and see that it's empty, and you just slam your fist down on it? How well would it survive?
The whole thing is made of metal. I'm guessing it's aluminium. And unlike the non-mechanical version, it's got legs on the back. The non-mechanical one didn't have legs, and you can't put them up. I've decided, because of the angle of it when the legs are up, and because the keys are raised, I prefer it with the legs up. Whereas with the non-mechanical version, I never felt that was needed. But I guess it's because the keys are just higher, and your hands just go to the keyboard in a different way, and your wrists are not always on the table in front of it. It's just a different experience.
Yeah, okay. All right, well, yeah. It's an interesting one. £133 on Amazon right now.
Okay.
I think.
I thought it was 120 something at the moment, but the only reason I got it really was because they offered me months to pay. Otherwise, I wouldn't have done it, because it was 169 quid, which is just outrageous, really, for what it is. Oh no, I'm not allowed to say that. I'll get into trouble like you did. but it's made beautifully, as is the other one. And the keys, I mean, I haven't tried to get any of the keys off yet, and I don't feel the need to, but they just have the right amount of travel, and they sit nicely, and yeah, I'm really pleased with it.
Yeah. Grand. Okay, cool. Right, well, we'll move on to some of the news, and I think the big news this week is really that Microsoft had their Microsoft Surface event, where they announced a few of their ideas going forward, and they have every opportunity to U-turn on some of them, probably wisely U-turn on some of them. But Ted, where can we start with this? The CoPilot Plus PCs? Maybe?
Yeah, I guess so. The CoPilot Plus PCs, which seems to be the thing to do these days. We've had that with Chromebook Plus, and no doubt we'll have it with other ones as well. The Plus PCs are just bigger, better. They're talking about using the ARM-based Snapdragon X Elite chipset, and the speed of the thing, and they're quoting 58% faster than the M3 MacBook Air. Of course they would, wouldn't they? And they've got into bed with various companies to make sure that the CoPilot Plus devices are designed to bring AI features in, AI features such as CoPilot itself. There's also a new feature called Recall, which we're going to come to a bit later in the show, in an item of itself. We'll come back to that. Then there's the OLED option on the Surface Pro, which to be honest, I didn't realise that the Surface Pro, the Surface devices didn't have OLEDs. I just assumed they did, but apparently this is the first one that they've done. So the 13-inch Surface Pro, starting at £1,000, has got an OLED display. I should think it does. I think it should have. Then you've got the Surface Laptop, which has got a reboot, 13.8 and 15-inch options. Again, around £1,000 or more. And yeah, I mean, various bits of software that they're plugging to work with CoPilot Plus PCs better, like from Adobe and Resolve and CapCut and loads of other stuff. So they were just pushing out really their partnerships with people at the event. I didn't watch the event. In fact, I don't think anyone could watch the event. I don't think they streamed it. But anyway, I think that's the kind of bones of it. But we'll come back to a recall later.
Yeah, I think there's a wee bit of a chat to be had there. Is any of this making you enthusiastic to go out and actually buy a CoPilot Plus PC, or do you think a Chromebook Plus would be a better bet for most?
I'm quite happy with my PC. I quite like the fact that it's not AI centric, but then going forward we don't know, because no doubt with Windows 12 or Windows 13 Microsoft will be suddenly starting to say, well, you can't use that, you've got to upgrade this, you've got to, there's a minimum hardware requirement to do this and do that and do the other, which is another thing we'll come to later with the recall function. So I really don't feel the need to be getting in on this, and I just hope that whatever people buy going forward is going to be good for the 10 years that they used to say that if you buy a Windows computer, it's good for. Yeah.
The whole push toward AI at the moment on a home computer just doesn't make any sense at the moment, and especially that I just don't feel that it works particularly well. If you actually go and do something, I'm sure people have ideal scenarios that work well, but if you just are like you and me, just going and doing something, generally doesn't work.
I was using Gemini and CoPilot AI earlier on today, and we'll come to an example of that in another item in the show coming up, where we can have a look at which two of those, when I throw a question at it, were any good and not good. As usual, Microsoft are very business-centric and business-orientated and not particularly consumer-orientated. But I think they feel as though with the Surface line particularly, they've had to try and shift that a bit, and so it's not too much of the same in that respect. We shall see.
Yeah, okay. Well, we'll come back to that later on. Into the hardline for the hardware. We're going to start with, I'm guessing, Ted, you put this in, didn't you? A Bluetooth speaker. A pretty chunky Bluetooth speaker that you could use to kill people if you wanted to hit them over the head with it. And this is the Tivoli Songbook.
Yeah.
Tivoli Songbook Max. Two Bluetooth speakers with DAB radios, and actually one of them has an amplifier for a guitar built in, that have a particularly unique feature that we've gotten away from, Ted.
Knobs and dials and buttons, and even on the Max version, it's even got a 3 physical slider equalizer on the front face of the device. But it just looks gorgeous. The Max version, incidentally, both of these are already on sale on Amazon UK. The Songbook itself is £429, and the Max is £599. But they just look absolutely lovely, and they got all sorts of technically proficient ways of ramping up the sound and making it sound super. It's got a 10-hour battery inside it. I think I would have liked to have seen a version where you didn't have to rely on the battery being inside it, because once again, I think, as we said on the last show, I'd rather plug something into the mains, frankly, and know that it's going to last for decades and not until the battery's knackered. But anyway, this is the way the world's going, so better get used to it. But knobs and dials and buttons, that's the thing. and it sounds like it's very powerful and just lovely to look at. And as you say, musicians can plug their stuff into the Max version anyway. I didn't realise, in this article here we're linking to in Tech Radar, I didn't realise that there was a previous one, the Songbook Radio from, when was that? In the 70s, I think they're saying. I haven't got the date.
In the 1970s.
Well, I think the company started in the 70s. I'm not quite sure when this Songbook 100 was. The review is dated 2007, so perhaps that's been a later thing. Anyway,
because it's got an LCD screen. I can't imagine the 70s being
no. I think that's Anyway, the point is that this thing that looks like a Jeep, this newest one,
it's got a military feel to it, the green one. Yeah,
and it's got a real, and that dial that is presumably the volume dial down the bottom there, that is it looks like a dial on a safe. It's just so beautifully designed and well thought out, and it's absolutely lovely. I'd love to have one of those. I'll trade in my Marshall speaker for that, I think.
So the Songbook 100 is it's an alarm clock basically that works with your iPod.
Oh, okay.
It's got a DAB FM built-in, iPod speaker, splash-proof hybrid functions.
Okay.
And was €80 when it came out.
Oh, I just realised that the 3-band equaliser I said was on just the Max one. It's on both of them. So it's in a different position on the other one, but they have both got it.
Yeah.
I really like that, though. I like what Tivoli have done there.
And what price are we going to be looking at for these?
$599 for the Max and $429 for the lesser one. And they are already on sale on Amazon UK, as I say, so you can buy them now.
Wow, £600. And have you ordered one?
No.
It is a Bluetooth speaker. It's worth asking, Ted.
I can't justify it. I really can't. I've got 700.
When's that stopped you before?
I've got 742 as it is.
All right. Well, the next thing is another pretty beastly device. This is UGREEN's latest portable charging station that delivers a whopping 48,000 milliamp hours and up to 300 watts. This is a pretty much a carry with you type thing that has a nice big screen on the front, 2 USB-A's and 3 USB Type-C's with various different types of delivery built in there as well. It's a gorgeous looking device, and one that I imagine you could also hit people over the head with and kill. What is there anything that I've missed out?
If you could lift it.
Yeah,
we're not actually terribly sure. We had a conversation in the MeWe group about this, and we're not terribly sure how big it is. There doesn't seem to be any dimensions, but you can probably tell from the size of the USB-A ports to some degree.
Yeah, it's quite small.
Yeah, it's not huge, is it? But what I do like about it is that the power output. So if you were going, if you were Gareth Williams and you're going off for a camping weekend. You've got all you would need here for the whole weekend, I reckon. And also, if you want to charge things quickly, you can. Those 3 USB-Cs, if you plug one into each of them, you get 100 watts from of charging speed from each one, so they'll charge stuff really quickly. If you want to use just one of them, you can get 140 watts from the left-hand one. But you get less with the other ones. Like with my Anker power house thingy, it depends on what combination you plug in as to where the power gets delivered into what ports. But it looks great, and we're seeing more of these devices from Anker and UGREEN and other companies like that, and I like it. I wish I needed one, because how much is it? Oh yeah, £200.
That's not bad. That's really not bad. I was expecting something like $299, pushing even £300, because it looks very nicely made, nicely designed. I'm intrigued by the white slip down the side. It looks like that might pop out, or
oh no, that's a torch. I've got that. I've got that on my Anker. It's a lamp. So on my Anker power thingy, I've got Where is it? Oh, it's disappeared. Oh, it's over there.
Emergency LED lighting.
Yeah, it's a strip light, and that works really well. I often use that strip light on my Anchor. It's not hugely bright, but it glows kind of warm and a bit orange, but it's really nice. Whether that one's warm and bright and orange, I don't know.
This isn't for sale in the UK just yet, is it? We're still waiting on it.
We are.
Maybe one day, but I suppose, yeah. No, it's a good-looking unit, and you'd probably do best to print out that grid where it shows you the 12 configurations, or at least 12 configurations of the ports and what you can expect.
Yeah.
If you were to go away on holiday and can refer to that, hopefully it's in the manual.
Indeed.
Yeah. All right, next up is, well, you're all chuffed, but for years we've had to really kind of just deal with the fact that 4 and 5 terabyte hard drives were about as far as you could go, as big as you could get for the generally the portable hard disk type. And I think that always kind of devolved down to power needs. When you start getting a bigger hard drive, you need to have some sort of more portable, a genuine power source to be able to get it to spin up.
That's right.
Because of the amount of platters and things that are inside it. But now they seem to have changed things, and maybe USB Type-C has helped deliver bigger power demands for bigger devices on the go. Ted, are you going to be buying a new Western Digital 6 terabyte portable laptop?
Hard disk drive. Yeah, I certainly will when I need to. I've got, and you're right. The difference between this and other ones is that it doesn't need its own power. It runs from the USB, and I've been stuck with my 2 5 gigabyte ones forever. Now this is not a huge upgrade to 6 terabytes. It's only one. I put gigabyte there. It's not gigabyte, is it? It's terabyte. It's not a huge upgrade to 6, but it's they put gigabytes in their bit as well in the headline, buffoons. So this is
where?
I've just changed it. You missed it.
Right, okay.
The thing is, though, that this is not... When I bought mine, they were much more expensive than this. On Amazon, I checked today, £162.99. So it's gone up to 6 terabytes from 5 terabytes, and the price has become really competitive and cheap. So when I do need a third one to add to my 2 5 ones, I shall be very pleased that it's not outrageously expensive like the other two I bought were. So, nice.
And do you absolutely have to have portable hard drives, or could you just rely on a good old-fashioned plug-in hard drive?
No, I don't. You're absolutely right. As I just said about my speaker, it's some things you'd rather they were plug-in and power up. But, living in the situation that I live in, I want to take stuff with me quite often because in a static mobile home setup, insurance is quite difficult, and so I want to be able to take things with me that might get nicked. And so up to now, those little 5 terabyte drives have been great because they just go in my rucksack and away I go whenever I'm out and about. But anyway, so in an ideal world, I mean, my 16 terabyte Western Digital drive has got a plug into the back of it, but that's not a backup. I use these as backup.
Why don't you, instead of living in a static, live in a regular caravan, and then you can just take it all with you anytime you go to the shops?
Oh, what, you're in a Tourer? Just drag it with you?
Yeah. Oh, need to get some beans. Away you go.
Get the legs up, unplug everything, hook it up to the car, which I haven't got. I've got a scooter. So do you think I could tow it with a scooter?
Probably, yes, if it's all downhill.
Anyway, I was quite pleased to see that. Well done.
Yes. All right, moving on to the next most ridiculous story of the week is HMD are doing the T21 tablet. Yes, that's the one that was the Nokia T21 tablet that came out, was it 3 years ago now?
The good news here is, though, that unlike some fears that were going around, is that link I've made is to the XR21, not the T21. So that's all bollocksed up. The HMD T21 is €300. So it's exactly the same as the Nokia T21. But the good news, which is what I was going to come to, is that they're doing the 2 guaranteed OS updates from now. So it's arriving on Android 13, and you will get 14 and 15, whereas the Nokia T21, it only got, I think it arrived on 11, and it's like finished on 13 or thereabouts. So yeah, HMD are honouring the new 2 updates, and it's 229 quid. No, it's not. Yes, it is. Hang on a minute. Yes, it is. It's 229 quid if you buy it at the moment from HMD's website, which used to be Nokia's website.
Right, okay. So it is the price that the Nokia T21 came out at, that I paid for when I bought it for my son all those Christmases ago. And they're selling it, well, actually, the RRP, which is £300, is £70 more than that.
Yeah.
And you can pick up the current one that I got for my son for £170.
Yeah, that's on special offer now. But you have to be aware that you won't get any updates on it now.
Right.
It's finished on Android 13, I think. Whereas
and HMD think this is a good idea.
Well, if you were in the market for a tablet, I mean, to be honest, having my mum and dad have both got one of these Nokia tablets, and to be honest, if I'd had my time again, I'd have got them Samsung ones. I think that it's a much better idea, and they'll get supported much longer. But these were cheap, to be fair.
They were cheap. They're not cheap now, given the level of hardware that's inside of them. Trying to ask £300 for the HMD T21, which doesn't have any particular revisions inside of it. It might just be ones that have been sent back and rebranded again. Faulty ones. We don't know. No, you're better off buying anything else.
Yes, let's move on then, shall we? Particularly a Samsung.
All right, well, we'll move into the mobile industry, which is going to be, it's quietly preparing even, for the biggest change to come to the smartphone, which is more bad news for everyone, I think. This is that the iSIM is going to become pretty much the new standard, and it will end SIM cards and allow networks to preload plans and things onto the devices that they are going to be selling. Ted, tell me how this could possibly be good news in any way possible.
Well, it's good news for those that want to keep the prices down of manufacturing, and they've been able to get the SIM module away from being a thing on its own inside devices, and put it onto onto the chip instead. The bad news for everyone else, apart from those trying to keep the prices down, is that, well, the obvious really, which is you're going to buy a phone, it's going to have the SIM baked into it, and presumably at some point down the line they're going to give people the option to change their number on it, or to add a number, or to move it from operator to operator, or whatever. But it's certainly initially it's going to be something that is going to, I think, difficult to negotiate for the industry. eSIM is kind of bad enough, although there's some people that have done eSIM change. The trouble is that I've got 200 phones here, and I'm forever changing my physical SIM card between them, because I'm depending on what I'm doing at any given day or hour, and this is just going to be an absolute nightmare to do this, and so I can't see it being really impactful for anyone other than, I can't see it being of any huge benefit to anyone except those people that are trying to knock out phones for less and less money.
Yes, yeah, and I was thinking that it's probably going to destroy the second-hand market for phones as well. It's going to generate more e-waste,
right?
Which is, because people aren't. It's not going to be as easy just to rip your SIM card out and throw it into another phone whenever you want to. So people aren't going to be bothered to do that, so they'll end up just trashing the device.
Yeah, good point. Never thought of that. But yeah, I'm not sure really whether. I mean, let's hope that the EU stands up and says no, when you're not allowed to do this, or you won't sell in Europe, and then they'll tend to stop everyone, won't it?
Well, I do wonder if the likes of the mobile networks are then actually going to have some kind of clause, because you can obviously sell your phone back to the network of choice whenever you're upgrading. So you could trade your phone in to get money off the new phone that you're getting. So if you're with Vodafone and you've had an iPhone for a wee while and you want to move to the new iPhone, you can trade in your iPhone and get maybe £400, £300 off the price of the new iPhone. But if you decide, I'm going to move from Vodafone across to O2, Vodafone may have a clause that you have to give that phone back directly to them. They're not going to remove their digital signature or whatever that's on the iSIM, and therefore selling it to O2 won't be an option for you.
Yeah, you've got to hope that PACCOs might work in a similar way, but I fear the worst, frankly.
Yeah, it does sound like you might end up leasing your phone for 2 years and then having to give it back.
Yeah.
And paying the massive amount that they're looking for. You will own nothing at the end of it.
Yeah, that could be true. That maybe that's the way they're heading, in the way that they have with software and apps, and that you find it hard now to buy an app on the App Store, which is not a pay once and own forever one, but a pay us so much a month. Perhaps that's what it's all about.
Yeah. It's worrying, but I think subscriptions are going to kill off everything, and people will be so sick of subscriptions that there'll be a sudden revolution whenever it comes to technology in the future.
And then the sun will implode.
It's possible that might happen the next day, yes. It'll probably be a Thursday. I can never get the hang of Thursdays. Right, the Motorola Moto G85 has had some new renders arriving, and this looks a wee bit of a departure from the Moto G84.
Physically,
does it not?
I don't think it's that differently looking. However, I'm willing to be convinced. The G84, I think, is very similar, and we don't actually know the full specs of the G85 yet, but I just thought I would have a quick look at this because it's such good value. When the G84 was such good value, when we were considering Motorola this week, I almost tried to get one of these in because it's so good. It's very similar to the Moto 40, which arrived, but it's got a micro SD card slot, and it's got loads of RAM, and it's got a 3.5mm audio out socket. It's got a huge battery. The only thing it hasn't got, the Edge 40 has got, is a wireless charging, Qi charging. But it's got a big battery as well. It's got Ready for support. This G84, I think, is a kind of hidden gem. And on Amazon at the moment, it's 194 quid. And I think that's a bit of a bargain, frankly. But the G85, I think it looks kind of similar, but you disagree. But we'll see. We don't know much about it. We'll see when it comes along. But if it's priced anything like the G84, that'll be very tempting, I think.
But does this not further kind of blur the lines between the G and the Edge series?
You could argue that, except the Edge series tends to go up into flagship territory, so it starts off in mid and ends up in kind of top-end territory. This G series, the G80 series anyway, it kind of sits in the middle there. And, you could argue that the Fusion at the bottom end of the Edge series is kind of similarly in there. But actually the G85 series tends to, I think, be better in some ways. Certainly with having a micro SD card and what have you. They're talking about the Snapdragon 4 Gen 3 chipset in it, but they really don't know. This article in Notebook Check is kind of clutching at straws a bit, bit based on what we're doing today, which is kind of looking at the G84 and hoping. We'll come back to this when it's actually been announced properly and we can see exactly what it is. In fact, we should never have talked about this.
Brilliant. Okay, fair enough. Well, there's images that you can go and look at of what the phone might look like.
Indeed.
For people who want to. Right, in the name of the game. And there's a new handheld that's coming out, and it looks a wee bit... the TRG website, or Tech Radar Gaming, whatever, say that it looks a bit like the PSP. However, I disagree. I would say that it's more like the Vita, because there's twin sticks on it, whereas the PSP didn't have that.
Yeah.
But it makes me think of the Vita much more than the PSP. And it's AYN, their new gaming handheld is going to, well, pay tribute to it. They think they have an idea that it might fill a hole that is very much in the market for people looking for a PSP, PS Vita-like device.
People like you who will remember.
Well, yeah, I still have my Vita.
Yeah.
I'll just use it instead.
But it's a very distinctive design, though, isn't it?
It is. It's not a comfortable design, and but I am interested to see whether or not it fits some of the add-ons that I have for my Vita to make it a comfortable design. It has a mini LED screen that delivers 1,100 nits of peak brightness. It has a 1,000,000:1 contrast ratio and a 155% sRGB color gamut. And it should be about 31% lighter than the Odin 2 and 9% lighter than the Ioneo Pocket S. So there's not much known about it at the moment. They don't even know what it's going to be running, whether it's going to be Android. Probably will be Android, some fork of Android, or something else perhaps, and what it's going to really focus on playing, if it's going to be an emulator king, or what. Don't know. We'll find out in the coming months and years and weeks and whatever until we get something. What are you excited about?
I like the design a bit. And I do remember the PSP. I know you said it's more like the Vita, but I like the PSP, and I think it looks like it to me, even if it's slightly differently laid out. And why did you find that it was difficult to use? You didn't like the rounded edges?
I think I suppose it's a handheld and it's designed for short periods of play, but I remember both the PSP and the Vita becoming quite uncomfortable after a while, especially if you've got big hands. And I ended up getting, I think it was actually Mike Mana, he recommended this particular grip that you could get for the Vita, which brought two sizable hooks, either side, and you could sort of hold on to those and it would position it nicely and comfortably in your hand. That's one of the reasons why the Vita became one of my gaming choices, because it was so comfortable to use with that grip.
I would have thought that the rounded edges, though, would sit in the two palms quite nicely. But you're suggesting it would have been better if it was kind of squared up, are you?
Not really.
Hang on. He's getting it out. Whip it out. Go on.
I actually have the Vita still in it. So it makes it, I suppose, right. What's the best way to describe this? The Vita sits in this, and then on the left-hand side there is a handle that sits out and hangs down about 2 inches below, and it's about 1 inch wide, and it goes back up into where the PlayStation button is, or where that D-pad kind of is.
Right.
And there's one on each side.
So you're
out the back.
So you're making the bottom two corners less rounded, aren't you?
Yes.
Okay.
And whenever you hold it, your little finger and your not so little finger beside it, which I'm sure has a name, but I'll just call them Trevor. Your little finger and Trevor, they grip around the bottom, the hooky down bits, and then your longest finger, and is that your ring? No, Trevor's your ring finger, isn't it? I don't know.
Yeah.
The really big finger in the middle, we'll call it Nigel. Nigel, it kind of sits on the back, and then the one on your index finger, who will go with Beatrice. Beatrice, they just go up the top to get the shoulder buttons.
Okay.
So it all becomes nicely wedged in your hand.
Right.
And it's like a matte material, so it's less sweaty.
Okay.
And it just really is very, very comfortable. I never dropped it. You clamp your palms in around it. And I think if that fits into this, I'll be dead excited.
Okay.
Deadly excited.
Do you think it will? Does it look like it will?
Yeah, I suppose.
Right.
Although I'm now looking at it, and yeah, the joystick on the left is up top as opposed to down bottom, so it's got the Switch layout more so than the actual Vita layout.
Right. Yeah. Well, I like the look of that anyway.
Yes, I like it too.
But there is one coming up soon, which I like the look of even more.
Okay, well, we won't dilly-dally around and whiffle-waffle about this, that, and the other, and naming fingers or anything like that, but I do reckon that your thumb would probably be called Jonathan.
Tom. It's Tom. Come on.
Tom Thumb. That's far too obvious. John Thumb is what we do here on the Tech. Oh, never mind, sorry. Ambernick. That's what we'll call it. Ambernick. Your thumb is Ambernick.
Okay.
Ambernick have announced a new 1-to-1 handheld that will let you relive your Game Boy glory holes.
Whoa!
This is the Ambernick RG Cube, which has a 4x5-inch screen. For, like the Game Boy had, a square screen.
How is 4x5 square?
I don't know. I just didn't have it in front of me. I just went with that. It's a 3.95-inch IPS display, which is 720 by 720.
Right.
It's 4 thumb lengths long and 5 thumb lengths high, which, using different thumbs is a different size.
Okay.
It's got a 2.7 gigahertz processor, Unisoc T820 inside of it, 8 gigabytes of DDR4X RAM, not just 4 RAM, but 4X RAM, and 850 megahertz GPU to handle up to 120 frames per second at 1080p on a 720 screen, which is particularly good. I think this looks like quite a nice little device. It will be wee. Very wee. And Ted, I believe you have big hands, or at least that's what the murder report said.
Again, it's quite difficult to see physically what size it will be. But it has got a micro SD card slot, and you can put a 2 terabyte card into it. 7 hours of battery life. The battery's a 5200 milliamp hour unit, and they reckon that it will charge in 3 hours. They don't say how long. Oh, yeah. Okay, so it's got Wi-Fi, Bluetooth, stereo speakers, 3.5mm audio out. You know what I'm going to focus on here, don't you? It's just that it looks so cute. It looks really Japanese teenager cute, and it's got all these lovely colours, like a Logitech Pebble keyboard kind of thing. And it's obviously designed with a target audience in mind, and that's not me. But I want in on it because I really fancy the look of it. The square, I guess, technically the question would be for you about how you get stuff onto it and how you get to play games, and you've got to kind of use emulation tools, presumably. It's not just going to support absolutely everything out of the box, including original Nintendo games, isn't it?
Well, pretty much, yeah. They say that it supports Android games up to Honor of Kings and Genshin Impact, 2 games I've never heard of in my life. But it should effectively emulate everything up to PS2, Wii, Nintendo GameCube, 3DS, PSP, Dreamcast, Sega Saturn, Pico 8, and all the profiles under that would be a lot less demanding, so it should be able to do those all very nicely.
So the emulator stuff is built into it until Nintendo take them to court and rip it out.
Well, possibly, but the Anbernic isn't quite limited to what you get on it. You can fiddle around with it and put on different operating environments.
Sure.
Themes and other emulators, and you could put on launchers and all kinds of stuff to turn it into a very unique, customized device.
Exactly.
Yeah, so it's very nice, yes. I would say that the little Anbernic that I had is a wee bit too small for my hands, and I would be quite reluctant to use these because I do like maximum amount of comfort, hence the fact I just banged on about a add-on for another device. It's probably not going to work.
There's no mention of pricing here that I can see, is there?
It'll probably be £130 or whatever delivered from AliExpress.
Yeah, I like that.
Otherwise, maybe a wee bit more.
I want one.
Yeah, okay.
I want that. I want that kind of pinky colour one in the middle.
Of course you do. You're very progressive. I applaud you, Ted. Right. Next up is the big rumour of the week. Now, there's nothing founded in truth here at all, but there is a rumour that Microsoft might be, smashing the piggy bank and counting out its pennies to try and put together around about $16 billion to purchase Steam and Valve.
Good grief.
I saw this headline earlier in the week and I thought, jeepers, imagine that happened. Imagine if Microsoft got their hands on the wonder that is Steam. And I know Steam is not a flawless company by any stretch of the imagination, but they are still pretty good at what they do, and they listen to PC gamers who want certain things. They are cautious. They do the right thing ultimately at the end of the day. People can have their gripes, as they always do, but I think they have a genuine track record of being a pretty good guy. Microsoft, on the other hand, don't. So the idea that Microsoft could ever, just force their way like Elon Musk did into Twitter and purchase Steam,
or kill it like they did with Nokia.
Well, that's one thing that is a good possibility. Obviously they bought Nokia for the patents and then just left the bloated carcass for some other company to come along and pick at. But Steam is different. Steam is a vibrant community of people, and for Microsoft to weigh in, they would have all these promises about how they're going to keep things the way they are. I don't even know why I'm surmising the idea that it would happen. Steam has such a ridiculous turnover every year. $16 billion is it's kind of like someone saying to you, "I'll buy you out of the career you're currently working in for £10,000." Okay, that might be nice to have the £10,000 in your bank account right now, but ultimately, I think Steam generates about probably $10 billion a year. In sales, for which they take a certain cut of, and 16 billion would be something that they could probably generate over the course of a couple of years for their not that they have shareholders, but for their company themselves. It's not. I don't believe this to be a possibility that they would like. It's just a juicy rumor that someone somewhere has got their hands on, and it's a real scary prospect. Just imagine if the Nazis won the Second World War.
This what is interesting is the very last paragraph in this Tech Times thingy, which says another reason this rumour is likely false is the potential for it to be mere engagement bait, possible clickbait. and here we are reporting on it, making it worse. They've exacerbated the story by saying that, and now we're doing the same thing.
Well, yes, but I do think it's not beyond the realms of possibility that they could be making a play. Whenever someone first mentioned Elon Musk buying Twitter, was like, no, that's a bit silly, really. But then you think about, of all the people who were to buy Steam, who could afford it? You know, Google could afford it, and Microsoft could afford it. I suppose Nvidia could afford it as well, because they're fabulously wealthy. I think they're going to be the in the next couple of weeks, they're going to be the number one company in the world, which is unbelievable. So for Microsoft to wade in and do that, looking at their track record of what they've done with games over the years, yes, they've been quite successful with the Xbox, despite pissing people off at every option. You know, there's been all kinds of decisions that they've made, but where they have even opened up their own avenues to be able to do things, and made such a horse's arse of it, you know, along the way. Games for Windows it's embarrassing, you know. People have bought those games and they can't use them on Windows, despite the fact Windows still very much exists. It's terrible. So I think this would just be the worst case scenario. It's a nightmare world. It's the man in the high castle all over again, where Microsoft buys Steam. It's a lovely nightmare. Yeah.
Big money, eh?
Big money. It's a ridiculous amount of money that we're talking here. Anyway, moving on to Sony, because they've been showing off some futuristic concepts for the likes of the PlayStation controller and handheld devices going forward. And Ted, you sent this to me a wee bit before the show, so I haven't had a proper time to chew over everything that's in here. But from what it looks like, is Sony is kind of taking things that are a wee bit popular now and just removing the plastic and electronics from it and making it seem like a really cool thing that you want to play with. Is that right?
There's all sorts of stuff, yeah, that in this concept video, which runs for about 2 minutes. We'll link to the YouTube video. But it covers, along with the gaming controller, which is why I focused in on it, it covers things like transparent smartphones, AR glasses, a flying drone without propellers. It's just worth having a look at the video for the kind of, you know, futuristic concept stuff that Sony are thinking about. But yeah, that gaming controller, which has got the two handles either side, what are they called? The thingies each side, but the two thumbs, as you can see from the photograph from the linked article, are sitting on these kind of black round things in a ring in the middle. So they've taken, as you say, they've taken away all the kind of plastic middle of it, and of course it's only a concept and it might not be real at all, but it did look interesting. and I thought it was worth just having a quick look at and a quick link out for people that are kind of interested in their little futuristic summary.
Yeah, I'm just realising what you said there about flying drone without propellers. How does it fly? Does it have jet engines?
Good question.
I think generally they need either or. They can't have neither.
Yes. I don't know. It might run on water and steam and not have anything traditional at all. They've rethought the whole concept of flying.
Yeah. I think there's a bit of creative license in the video, and stuff that we'll probably never see. Although in 200 years' time, it'll be nice for people to be able to go back and look at that and go, look at what they thought we'd be doing then.
Yes.
All right. One thing that has the potential for 200 years from now, for people to look back and go, "Oh my God," is what has been announced by Microsoft. And that is essentially
the recall thing,
yeah, Wind Recorder, which takes a sizable chunk of your hard disk and records what you're doing on the computer by taking a screenshot every 3 seconds.
No, that's the recall one. The first part of the story is about some lone developer who's who's developed their own version of it via GitHub or somewhere. It kind of emulates to some degree what Windows have announced with Recall. Now, Windows have recalled. They have developed Recall, which sounds like it's a way in which Apple have used to do time capsule. It's a long time since I used Apple, and maybe time capsule's not a thing anymore, but they used to do this time capsule thing. Windows are talking about doing this as you say, every few seconds. They're taking a screenshot of what you're doing and all the rest of it, and they're saying that you need minimum storage requirements. I think the minimum was 250 gigabytes of storage.
25 gigabytes.
25 gigabytes of storage. Yeah. But the other part of this story is some guy who's developed a free version of it, called Wind something?
Wind Recorder.
Wind Recorder. Yeah. And that one takes a snapshot every 15 minutes and takes up substantially less storage space, he or she claims. So there's two things going on here. Sorry to interrupt you. Carry on.
No, you're fine. I got my names mixed up then. I hadn't actually clocked what Windows were calling their thing. And I thought Recall was actually Apple's one, but yeah, it was the time capsule, yeah. It's hard to get past the actual concept to pay attention to the finer details, because it is such a disgusting idea of technology going forward. Now, I can't imagine how anyone's going to be happy with this outside of being an employer with some employees, to keep an eye on what they might be doing whenever they're, say, working from home or working in the office, and being able to go in and peruse what's there. I think Microsoft say that this will be on by default, so you have to go in and manually turn it off. And also they assure you that they're not going to be doing this in a sinister way, and it'll be encrypted for the professional side of things, but there's no word as to whether or not the home version will be encrypted. And it'll occupy a sizable amount of your hard disk, and especially if you're using something like a Windows laptop that maybe has 256 gigabytes of storage or even less, then you'll be having storage woes for this one thing, especially that it arrives turned on, so it's going to eat up your hard disk space straight away. In the last couple of weeks, one of the things that is driving me toward moving to Linux, kind of not full steam ahead, but I've got a bit of time before they start implementing any of these things, was quite recently they announced the whole removed OneDrive from your computer. And you can go in and uninstall OneDrive. However, I still severely doubt that OneDrive is actually gone. It's just been coloured over or put into a camouflage container, because there are hints that it's still there. Like, for example, all the shortcuts on my desktop this morning showed that they had been synced to somewhere, and that would be OneDrive, despite the fact it's not on my system apparently. So I don't believe Microsoft in the slightest, and I've got a really worrying feeling that this is going to be, you can turn it off, but it's not actually turned off, and that there's going to be horror stories, especially for those who don't know that they can turn it off and are maybe just a wee bit blind going into this and haven't heard it, and don't listen to the Tech Addicts podcast where we call it by stupid, incorrect names. Sorry, I do, not Ted.
However, Microsoft are claiming in amongst all this that it's only on the machine that it's doing it. They're not nicking any of the data. It's all locally held. That's what they're claiming.
And did they pinky promise that? Or
yes.
Well, what's to say that, that obviously hackers can work out how to get into your bank account.
Yeah.
What's going to stop them where you have maybe lax security because you're not a particularly good computer user? Like, my wife isn't great on computers, but she has a laptop. She's got a work laptop. She's got a couple of screens, and she'll say things like, where do I plug the mouse in? But she can work her way around Outlook, Word, Excel, and she thinks she's quite proficient with computers, but she's not really. She
Yeah.
really isn't.
Yeah.
She's never done an update. I'll go down to her laptop and hit the button. It's like, oh, hang on a second. Does that say Windows XP? No, wait. Well, it's not that severe, but there's a lot of people out there who just use a computer for computing, and they're not going to be aware that 30 gigabytes worth of screenshots are going to be stored in a folder, possibly somewhere in their computer, that a hacker can quite easily go in, nab, and with broadband speeds the way they are, it's quite easy to get that quite quickly. Nab that and go through it and be able to see screenshots of them going into their bank account. Now, they say that Microsoft Edge, the privacy mode on it, it won't take any pictures of that. But that's another thing that you have to try and get across to the people who aren't aware that this is already running. They actually made a point of saying it's not going to grab shots of things that have DRM built into it, which I don't think anyone gave a shit about in the slightest. But say, for example, someone is working on a piece of art, and to have someone taking a screenshot of that 3 seconds in a row, which is obviously using up system resources while they're trying to do that, or they're building a video or editing a video, which is already a process-intensive thing, and then having that being sent off into we don't know where, we're just taking Microsoft's word that it's not being synced somewhere, is utterly barmy. This is one thing that needs to be turned off by default and turned on by an employer who wants to spy on their employee.
Well, that's the thing.
That's it.
If you were a capitalist employer, you'd be all over this and think this is great. But if you're a socialist worker working for the capitalist employer, you'd be up in arms. But there's two sides to everything, isn't there? And who's to say that somewhere down the line, Microsoft don't suddenly quietly sneak in a thing that says, agree here to let us use your data and all those sorts of things. I think you're right. It is very Big Brotherish, but they're along with the guy that's done the free one. They're assuming that this is going to be helpful to people. And I must admit that when I did have a Mac computer and had the time capsule thing running, there were a few times when it was really useful to go back and to find something that I'd lost, and yeah, just maybe 2 or 3 times during the time I had it. But I did quite like that, and I did kind of trust at the time that it wasn't being used badly by Apple. So who knows?
Yeah, that was probably done at a time before we have the worries that we have now about big tech.
Yeah.
And I think that this serves as a warning that people need to take this kind of thing very seriously and study what they're actually doing on computers, because it might end up biting you in the ass. And B, that Microsoft have very much lost their identification, or not that they have lost their appreciation of what people want, and they're not looking at their customers, but they're actually looking at, I don't even know why they've come up with this. I can't get inside the mind of Microsoft that where someone has thought, this is a good idea, let's pursue this. There's no right way that you could do this other than being a snivelly, horrible manager that wants to see what their employees have done. And we saw that during COVID. I remember there were news stories where horrible bosses were activating whatever type of Zoom client they have and turning on employees' cameras on their laptops whenever they weren't expecting it. I think there was a court case about one particular one who was leering at one of his female staff members via the webcam all day, and he wanted to be able to just check in at any time, despite the fact that was in their own home and they could be doing whatever they do in their own home. Obviously cooking dinner. They could watch them cooking dinner. And that's a real infringement of privacy. This is the same. I can't imagine the European Union, let alone letting this go through at all. It's just an absolute waste of time and money by Microsoft, and a shocking display of how out of touch they are with what customers actually want.
But as we said earlier, Microsoft is largely about business these days. And so they probably consider that a large part of their business base is the employers who want to check up on employees who are using all sorts of counter tricks to make it look as though they're working when they're at home, when they're not. Like that thing I put in the MeWe group this week about this. Someone had done this this little program that it made it look like your computer was doing an update. You just put that thing going on, and the employee working from home can just say, "Well, I can't do anything. Look, it's updating."
Oh, that's pretty handy. Yeah.
Two sides to every story.
Well, yeah, I'm still not convinced of the other side of the story, and I do like to entertain the other side, but no, this is icky, sticky, and I want away from it. So we'll move on to Google, another company that does some similar things. Tell us what's new in the Google Gallows and the Chrome Corner section.
Okay, there's a new badge that website developers can put on their website if they fancy doing it, called Add to Chromebook. And I put an example of this in action in the Pixlr website. There's a link in the show notes to that, so you can see one company at least that have done this. And this is just a quick and easy way of turning websites into desktop apps, so PWAs basically, instead of waiting for the app to come along or changing it. And it's a shortcut to what most of us know already, is that if you go to in Chrome on desktop anyway, the three dots on the right hand side, then you go to save and share, you'll find an item in the save and share menu that says install page as app, and that does exactly the same thing. It's just that Google have decided to make this badge available, and Pixlr are one of the first ones to pick up on it and use it. So that's quite interesting. The YouTube Music hum a song thing has come out. I tried that this morning, and that works really well. It works in the same way as you've been able to do that for a while with Now Playing and other tools. You can just and also in Spotify, I think, and other applications. But they've baked it into YouTube Music now, and I tried it this morning, and it worked brilliantly well, I have to say. I hummed a tune. You can also use an instrument to play into it. Not new, but it's new for YouTube Music, and it's just arrived. So check for that and update YouTube Music if it's not on the latest version. Google are going to be moving low priority emails to the updates part of the inbox on Android and iOS, which is crap. And I really hope they're not going to do that. They're claiming that they are only going to do that when someone says that they want to do that. But that whole priority inbox and basic inbox and all that rubbish on Gmail on mobile is just crap. They ought to drop that. And this updates and promotions, and they've done some auto labelling. I'm hoping this new one doesn't make it into being auto switched on like Microsoft have done with Recall, apparently. And the last one is probably the biggest one of my little roundup, which I'm hoping that you might understand more about than I do, to be honest. There's this company called HubSpot.
Yeah.
And it's apparently a cloud storage service, which I've never heard of. But apparently Google are set to make its largest acquisition ever, paying billions of dollars to buy HubSpot so that it can grab its part of the market share, which apparently is currently dominated by Amazon as the top company with cloud, what is it? The cloud.
It's a cloud-based platform.
Here it is. The cloud applications market. That's what it's called. And I had to try and look up and find out what they actually meant by that. In the linked article, there's a little diagram that shows that Amazon Web Services has got the vast majority of the global cloud software market. Microsoft is second place, but Google has got less than half of what Microsoft have got, and they reckon that by making this acquisition, they'll be able to bolster theirs and get it up beyond Microsoft and certainly into second place. They're after first place, obviously. But I'd never heard of HubSpot, had you?
No, I haven't, no. But they do seem to be a tremendously huge company. I just imagined that they were... Well, they kind of specialise in the likes of things like customer service. So whenever you go onto Amazon and talk to a customer service agent, that's kind of using HubSpot's tools and resources to make that work.
Okay.
And I think most people have a pretty good experience whenever it comes to customer service on Amazon. And also they market and push sales for a company as well. So, you'd think that was something that Google would be good at doing themselves, because they sell, web space or ad space. But they're having to bring in another company in order to do that.
Right.
But yes, I think they want to very much turn things around from where they were a number of years ago, whenever I think they were quite a likable company. And they're kind of pushing toward becoming a company more like Apple, that manufactures their hardware and sells their hardware and gets people to use their hardware, which is what Microsoft is getting into as well. So those three companies are going to occupy essentially the same ground and fight each other for everything.
And it's going to cost them $30 billion.
Well, this is them cheating, where Apple, I think, have maybe sort of, and Microsoft have gained their own ground themselves. Google are like, well, if we buy this company, we'll be able to leapfrog the actual...
Yep. All right. Underhand tactics, acquiring other companies but they're all doing that, aren't they? We spoke earlier about Microsoft doing that with Nokia, for example. You stamp someone else out. Anyway, I put two links in the show notes here at this point, which I made reference to earlier, with the comparison between Gemini. I said to Gemini, what do HubSpot do? Or some question like that. And I gave exactly the same question to CoPilot, and you can just see the differences there and how crap or good CoPilot or Gemini are. Actually, I thought they did pretty well on that, but that's a kind of technical question which you'd expect them to get right, not what colour underpants have I got on.
Was CoPilot able to answer that?
I didn't ask it.
All right. Okay.
Anyway,
fair enough.
There you go.
It could cause problems if you're not actually wearing them. Yeah. Right. Okay. Moving on to the bargain basement, where we have some nice bargains to talk about, and we'll start with Ted, with your old faithful.
My old friendly faithful, the XM5 headset from Sony. I've never seen it so low as this. £254, down from the release price of £379. And yeah, for anyone that hasn't got a pair of XM4s like me, I don't think you're going to find it cheaper than this, certainly in the foreseeable. And they're lovely headphones. They really are absolutely gorgeous. I was wearing my XM4s just this week and just glorifying in how wonderful they sound. Anyway, so there you go. That's the first one. Sony WH-1000 XM5.
Yeah, good price for a darn good set of cans. The next is the Verbatim GNC 200 GAN charger. This is a 200-watt charging solution with two USB Type-Cs with power delivery of up to 100 watts, one USB Type-C with power delivery of up to 65 watts, and one USB QC 3.0. So yeah, it takes 4 devices and dumps out across them 200 watts ish. One thing I did like about this is that the plug goes directly on the back of it, so you actually plug it straight into the wall. There isn't a cable that connects you to this. That might be a bit of a deal breaker for some, but it might be something that other people might go, ooh. So if you've got a plug on a desk, you can plug this directly into it and just work away with it, which I think is quite novel for some of these bigger GAN chargers. I know some of them do this anyway, but I thought this would be a bit different. But it's £65 and 83p, which is the lowest it's been for quite some time.
I'm seeing 75 quid on that on my link, but
this happened last time as well.
Yeah, fair enough. But it does look good, you're right. And I'm not sure about it comes supplied with 3-pin plug and European and American ways of plugging it in. And it does look very nifty, I agree with you. Verbatim, I've not heard of that name for ages. They used to make DVDs when I bought CD re-ripping, CDRs and stuff like that. Verbatim, yeah. I've completely forgotten.
I had micro SD card, I think, made by them, or regular SD card. I remember seeing them once again. I was like, oh, where do I know that from? But yeah.
They still do.
Still around.
Yeah, I've just gone through to their store on Amazon. They still do the optical media, so they still do discs and SD flash cards and hard drives. And I wonder why their name is so hidden normally.
Well, hopefully this will be them back on track. Who knows?
Yeah. Right, Kindles are on sale again. I mentioned this on the last show. But since the last show, they went off of sale again, and now they've come back on sale again. So I wasn't just going mad and repeating the same thing.
Just in time for the next episode.
Yeah. 304 quid is the flagship Kindle Scribe 64GB one, down from 409 quid, so it's over 100 quid off of that. And it's another one of those that I really wish I needed one, because I really fancy playing with one, but I'm not going to buy one. Your turn.
All right. Well, one thing I'm actually going to possibly buy, depending on where I end up going this summer, is the UGREEN UK to European plug adapter. There is also a UK to US plug adapter, and that's why I need to know which one I'm going for, because I'm going for one or other, depending on the destination. This is a 30-watt travel adapter that has a USB Type-C GAN, with fast 4-in-1 travel plugs. You can plug a regular UK plug into this, alongside two USB Type-A things and a USB Type-C, just one USB Type-C. But yeah, it's really quite small as well, and it's down from 20 quid to £13.99, and might be something that you could entertain if you are going away. It is a bit of a pain that it's not that easy to switch between European and US. It's not one size fits all. There's two different ones, one for US and one for UK. So keep that in mind when you're buying it. You may have to buy two if you're going to both of those places. There you go.
Yeah, this is really nice to see something like this that has got decent power in it, because we've got one of these things, but it's absolutely useless. Talking about trickle charging, it's an old-fashioned one, and it's got USB-A outlets on it. There's no USB-C. It was before those days, but it's just completely useless. You plug something in, and about 30 hours later, you're charged if you're lucky. It's so trickle charged. But this one, clearly they've thought about that and say they need faster charging, and that's really good. That worked really well. So good shout.
Yes, rather. What's next?
The Anker Prime 200... We're all on power this week, aren't we? The Anker Prime 240-watt desktop GAN charger. And this is a really nifty-looking thing, a bit like the one that you highlighted. But this is, 240 watts of power output maximum. So you can have 140 from one and 100 from the other one. So that's quite decent. But it's only 129.99, down from 200 quid, and it's got the good name of Anker on it, of course, which we like on this show. And yeah, it just looks really nice. It's got 3 USB-Cs. Again, you've got to kind of play with what power's coming out of what in what combination. But there's also a USB-A. So it's very much like the one that you highlighted, really, except that it's not a plug in the wall one. It has got a cable. But yeah, very nice.
Yeah, that's really sexy looking as well with that wee stand that it sits in.
Yeah, it is.
I wonder if it comes out of the stand, or is the stand fully attached to it?
No, I think it comes out.
You do?
Yeah, yeah. I can't believe they would do that. I can't, mind you, I can't find a picture on there with it not in the stand.
Yeah, I think it is actually permanently attached. Just gives me that feeling.
Yeah, I don't know. Oh no, look, there is a picture of it without. Not in the pictures to the left, but to the right. Oh no, that's another one. Forget that idea. Oh, and this has been cheaper as well. It was 120 quid at one point. So that invalidates it from bargain basement.
I haven't looked through the user pictures as well, and there aren't any of it out of the stand either. So I think the stand is permanently attached. But I don't think that's not an issue. It's just a wee. I thought it would be kind of cool if you could pick it out and then put it back in again. But then I can't imagine why you would.
Have you looked at the video? Oh yeah.
No.
If you look at the video on the left there, it shows someone taking it out of the stand.
Okay. All right. Okay.
So.
Well, that makes it even better.
Yeah. Pretty nice indeed.
Oh, blimey, that video's loud.
Yeah, that's what I just found out. It blew my ear off.
Grand. All right, next up is the Lisen, Lisen, 2-in-1 MagSafe charger stand for your iPhone, and it's a foldable wireless charging pad for iPhones and Apple Watches, and it's designed to be a wireless travel charger-y thing. You can take it with you and charge things on the go. There's pictures of people on the plane having all kinds of hilarious fun with this device, charging whilst you use it and stuff. Just plug it in, away you go.
It's got a long cable on it. That's good.
It does, yeah, which means you can use the USB in the seat in front of you on the plane and really piss them off.
And there's 20% off.
There is, yes. It's quite a complicated one, this. It's $32.99 normally, and then you get 20% off, but then there's 20% off again with a promotional code that's on Amazon there, which is, in case you can't see it, it's 47E7 5G VM. 47E7 5G VM. And that brings the price down to £16.49.
It's basically half price, isn't it? So
basically,
yeah, that's good for someone that's got an Apple device kicking about.
Yeah, and it looks quite nice too, I think.
And the last one is a Logitech G Pro X mouse, which is apparently really well rated by people that like gaming mices. I've never used one of these, but it's a G Pro X super light, and it's reduced from 140 quid, 139.99 to £93.21. And it does look very nice. And as I say, everyone seems to review it really positively and thinks it's a good mouse. Have you ever tried one of those?
No, I haven't. I've never seen it before, actually, but it looks rather nice. And it comes in 2 different colours as well. There's 3. There's black and there's white. But then there's magenta for those who just want to go a wee bit woo and a wee bit wah.
It looks like it's very nicely made, as you'd expect, I suppose, with Logitech.
Yeah, there's a Generation 2 as well.
Oh, yeah, so there is. What's that about, then?
That's £113.99 down from £150, so that's a decent saving too.
USB-C charging. Perhaps that's the difference. Is the first one not USB-C? Perhaps it's micro USB charging.
I didn't notice that.
You
can't really tell from the photographs.
It is. I bet you it is. Because I've got my mouse that I'm using right this minute is an older Logitech mouse, and that's still got a micro USB in it, which is really annoying. But I've got one cable sat here just for that. Oh dear.
Well, it's time to upgrade and you can get one of these.
Yes, indeed. Anyway, there you go. So that was my last one.
Sweet. Okay. Well, that about brings us to the end. And I was going for a shorter show this week and failed miserably.
Well, it's not 2.5 hours.
No, it's not, but we're still under 2 hours. Well, I guess I'll take it. Yeah, that's fine. Right. Well, if you want to get in touch with us, you can. by emailing us at gareth@techaddicts.uk. You can find me on Twitter too, at Gareth Miles, Myles. I forgot my own last name there. I'm on Mastodon. I'm on Blue Sky as well.
Oh, yeah.
And I've got my GarethMiles.com. And I'd love to hear from anyone out there who is listening who wants to see and hear Ted do his own videos on YouTube. Yes. Do remember, throw in your enthusiasm for Ted to do that. Possibly in a low-cut top. Maybe get his hair permed.
You can find all I do at tedsalmon.com. Links to all our audio podcasts from there, and also all of our MeWe groups. So do come and join us there. If you want to buy me a copy, you can do that at paypal.me/tedsalmon. And I also have been using Blue Sky, incidentally. We haven't linked that here in the show notes, but I'm dabbling with it, and kind of I've noticed quite a lot of tech reviewing type people have started using it as well, and it might be worth a look and more consideration alongside Mastodon, which I hardly ever look at now.
Me too. Yeah, but I think as you get older, you just tend to forget social networks. I think maybe most of them are on their way out, unless you have a little community, which you're quite happy to be part of.
Indeed, like our MeWe's.
Yes, absolutely. All right, well, we'll love yous all later, and have a wonderful couple of weeks, and we'll speak to you in 2 weeks' time.
Goodbye.
Take care now.